I took time off work to prepare the house for the holidays. Our daughter Casey is coming home from college tomorrow. Casey is in her final year of college, and my wife and I are looking forward to her coming home for the holidays. We haven't seen Casey since October when we visited her at college. My wife Diana has been working a lot of overtime over the past few months. The company she works for is considering buying one of its competitors. Diana is a project manager and is responsible for conducting a comprehensive review. Her report to the board will help determine the purchase price. It's a pretty big job that requires long hours and several trips to the target company's headquarters in Phoenix. The last 4 months have been tough on Diana and me. I miss my wife. We usually close Casey's bedroom door after she leaves in the fall. There's no reason to use that room. I decided to vacuum and wash the room before making the bed. I lifted the comforter so it wouldn't get caught in the vacuum cleaner, and that's when I saw it. Leaning forward, I whispered a prayer that it was just a popped balloon, but when I got closer, I realized it wasn't. My next thought was disappointment that Casey had had sex in our house. She didn't have a steady boyfriend. Maybe it was one of those friends with benefits that young people talk about these days. With my thumb and forefinger, I carefully picked up the condom from the floor, brought it up to my eyes, and stared at it. My head was spinning, and I'm sure I screamed, "What the hell? What the hell? What the hell?" I had to sit down on the bed for a moment. This condom could only mean one thing. But the thought that my Diana was cheating on me was unimaginable. We had been married for 22 years, and she had never given me any reason to worry about her fidelity. Sure, she's 43 and men still hit on her. The only wrinkles on her face are laugh lines. She worries that they make her look old, but I tell her they only accentuate her natural beauty. She smiled that smile and kissed me when I said it. Her body is as toned as it was when we got married. Before this damn project, Diana spent 3 days a week at the gym. Last spring, we took 2 weeks off and went to the Bahamas. Diana turned heads in her tiny bikini. She even treated me to a day at a nude beach. That night, we had sex like newlyweds. We didn't even make it to dinner. So why am I sitting on our daughter's bed with a damn used condom in my hand? I shook my head to clear my thoughts and went to the kitchen to get a plastic bag. The condom was in the bag. The bag was in an envelope, and the envelope was at the bottom of the freezer in the garage. It was the only thing I could think of. Keep the evidence just in case. Damn, I didn't even want to think about the consequences. Divorce? Would I be able to forgive Diane? What if she didn't want to be forgiven? What if she was in love with this guy? I was completely thrown off balance. It had all happened so suddenly. Like a robot on autopilot, I went upstairs and finished cleaning Casey's bedroom. After I made the bed, I still didn't know what to do next. I called my brother and asked if he wanted to have lunch with me. Dave works in the city. He was happy to hear my voice and gladly agreed to leave the office for lunch when I said I was crying. Dave and I sat down at a secluded table. I leaned toward him and said quietly, "Dave, this isn't going to work. This is between you and me, you understand?" "Of course, Al. What's going on?" I told Dave what I had found, and he sat there with his mouth open. "Al, I can't believe this. Not Diana. She loves you, man." "I thought so too. But how else can I explain what I found? It's just the two of us living in the house. The only visitors we had this fall were the Johnsons, and they stayed in the guest room. I don't think they would sneak into Casey's room for a quickie." "What are you going to do?" "I think I'll talk to Diana when she gets home tonight. I can't imagine how I'm going to act like nothing happened." No, don't do that. Accusing her without proof is the last thing you should do." "Why?" "I'll tell you why. 2 months ago, I came home from work early. When I walked in, I thought I heard the back door close. At first, I thought Janet had gone out the back door, so I went to the kitchen, but then I heard her calling me from upstairs. I went upstairs, and there was Janet standing there in her bathrobe. I asked her what was going on, if I had caught her with someone else. I was furious. Janet lost her temper. She yelled at me for several minutes, asking how I could accuse her, the mother of our children, of such a thing. She berated me for even thinking such a thing. She didn't speak to me for 3 weeks. 3 weeks without sex and almost without kisses. The house was freezing cold until she finally let me out of the doghouse. Of course, I still suspected her. I didn't let her know, but after that I kept my eyes wide open. I don't know if Janet realizes it. I hope not. But for the last 2 months, I've been following a strict plan. What plan? I checked her closet, checked her phone. I checked the bedroom for signs of sex. A couple of times I came home unexpectedly for lunch. I started paying closer attention to Janet's appearance, any changes in her behavior, in our intimate life. Where the hell did you get that list? I found it on the internet. It's amazing what you can find there. I just typed cheating wife into Google and got a bunch of nonsense, including this list. During this entire conversation, our waitress came and went, took our order, brought our lunch, and brought the check. All the while, I noticed that she was eavesdropping. Finally, when she brought the bill, she leaned over and said, "I caught my boyfriend by checking his phone. He and his girlfriend were constantly texting each other. He tried to deny everything, but there was too much evidence. I dumped him." I left the restaurant, not knowing what to do. I sat down in my office and started listening to Rachmaninoff. Classical music always calms me down and helps me think. Was there any other evidence of cheating? Anything besides one used condom? Of course, Diane worked a lot, came home late, and even went to the office on Saturdays. There were trips to other cities. What did Dave say? Any changes in behavior? And then I realized. Last month, Diana spent an hour in the bathroom taking a bath and primping. When she was done, she called me into the bedroom. I walked in and saw her in a silk nightgown I had never seen before. Diane melted into my arms and started undressing me. "Go take a shower and shave. Hurry." I quickly took a shower, shaved thoroughly, and returned to the bedroom. There were 4 candles burning, and Diane was lying on the bed with the covers thrown back. I untied the towel around my waist and joined her on the bed. We looked at each other and started laughing. Almost simultaneously, we said the same thing. That was wonderful. Then we laughed some more. As soon as we recovered, we went to the bathroom and took a shower together, kissing the whole time. That was a month ago, and until today's conversation with my brother at lunch, it hadn't even occurred to me that Diane had cheated on me. It was time to do some investigating. Diane was due back in a couple of hours, so now was the perfect time to start. First, I searched her closet, rummaging through boxes and bags. Nothing unusual except for a new bikini in a Nordstrom bag with the tag still on. Maybe she's wearing it for him in Phoenix? I'll be sure to check when she leaves town next time. Then I looked in her drawers. Again, nothing new. No new frilly underwear or nightgowns. No short dresses or tops I hadn't seen her wearing. No secret stash of condoms. By the time I finished searching, it was time to make dinner. Today was salad day, so it wasn't difficult. I opened a bottle of Burgundy Pinot Noir and sat in the kitchen, waiting for Diana to come home. When she walked in the door 15 minutes later, I couldn't believe it was the woman I suspected of cheating on me. She practically threw her briefcase on the floor, hugged me, and kissed me. Then I tasted the wine on her lips. "I'm so glad to be home. 2 weeks with the family. I turned in my report this afternoon. Everything's ready. I hope you don't mind, but I went to a restaurant across the street with my colleagues and treated them. I wanted to thank them for their hard work. I had 1 glass of wine and came straight home." She kissed me again. "Oh, honey, I've missed you so much these past few months." I put my arms around her waist and pulled her close. "I missed you too. Does that mean you're free for the next 2 weeks? No work?" "I hope so, but I wouldn't be surprised if I get a couple of calls I have to answer. With any luck, I won't have to leave the house. I promise I'll try to keep it to a minimum. I'm looking forward to 2 weeks with you and Casey. Has she called?" "I spoke to her this morning. Her flight arrives at 11 and we'll pick her up." "Does she have plans for tomorrow evening?" We talked about it. She's having dinner with us. She's looking forward to a home-cooked meal. After dinner, she's meeting some friends. She said she'll be all ours on Sunday. Diana and I had a wonderful evening. We drank a bottle of wine and almost opened a second one, ate salad, had a glass of cognac, and talked nonstop. During the conversation, I almost forgot about my suspicions. By 9:30, Diana was drunk and couldn't stop yawning. "Let's go to bed. I need to sleep." Diana fell asleep as soon as her head hit the pillow. I stayed up reading. An hour later, she was fast asleep, and I did something I had never done before. I reached over, took her phone from the nightstand, and pressed the button to unlock it. It was locked. After that, I couldn't sleep for at least 2 hours. I couldn't get the waitress's words out of my head. I caught my boyfriend by checking his phone. Diana woke up before me and I smelled coffee. I went to the kitchen. "Good morning, sleepyhead. Up late reading?" "Sorry I fell asleep. I didn't realize how tired I was. I'll make it up to you when Casey leaves with her friends tonight, I promise." There she was again, all lovey-dovey. Is that how a cheating wife talks? But still, why was her phone locked? I decided to try a trick that had occurred to me at 1 in the morning. I took Diana's phone from the kitchen table. "Diana, I need to call Sandra's husband about the fly fishing rod he's selling. Can you give me his number from your contacts?" Sandra was one of Diana's co-workers, and her husband was an avid fisherman. I didn't wait for Diana to answer, but simply pressed the button that locked the phone. "Diana, the phone is locked. When did you start locking it?" "The password is the same as for the garage, 4002. I started blocking it when I came back to my desk and found Kevin looking at photos on my phone. I left my phone on the desk while I was in a meeting, and when I came back, that little snoop was holding my phone and rummaging through my gallery. He was this close." Diana spread her fingers a centimeter apart. "From getting fired. Now he has a warning in his file, one more violation and he's gone. I didn't tell you because it's a personnel matter and we've always treated such matters as confidential." I dialed 4002 while Diana was talking, and the phone opened. "I would have fired him. You're too soft." "I probably would have, but he just had a baby. I hope he takes advantage of this second chance." "Good luck." I wrote down Sandra's cell phone number and decided to call her later to finish the story about fishing. Well, I could use another fishing rod. I didn't hang up. "What's so interesting about the photos in your gallery that they almost got a guy fired?" Diana laughed. "I wish. There are no nude photos of my lover. No selfies. Just a couple of photos from the flower show Janet and I went to last month and some cute pictures of Casey that she sent last semester. Your wife is boring." "No naked pictures of your lover?" I couldn't believe she said that. I kept scrolling through her gallery and she was telling the truth. There were only pictures of flowers and Casey. "Who the hell is your lover?" I hoped I asked that without betraying my irritation. Diana laughed again. "Come on, silly! Who else?" This woman was driving me crazy. We continued to chat about the dinner menu and other nonsense, while I continued to secretly look through her text messages. Diane didn't notice, and I didn't find anything. We picked up Casey from the airport and spent the next 2 weeks on a wonderful family vacation. We went to the mountains and skied. We spent 3 days snowshoeing in the Mathau Valley and nights in a rented cabin just a few feet from the Cheech River. Diane answered a few work calls and spent only 1 day at the office. The mystery of the hidden bikini was revealed when I opened Diane's Christmas present, 2 tickets to the Bahamas for early March. "And I have something special to wear when we get there." She embarrassed Casey terribly when she held up 2 small pieces of fabric. "Mom, please, that's too much information." I probably would have forgotten about the condom incident if it weren't for my brother. After all, Diane had done nothing but shower me with love and affection for the past 2 weeks. Diana and I threw a New Year's Eve party and invited a lot of neighbors. My brother came with his wife, Janet. They lived in the neighborhood with their 2 teenage sons. I love most of our neighbors. We live in one of the few areas of Seattle where people actually take the time to get to know and socialize with their neighbors. There were about a dozen couples at our house that night. One of the few neighbors I couldn't stand, Ed Parker, was there too. The only reason he was invited was because of his wife, Sylvia. She's such a sweet woman that Diana insisted we invite them, even though Parker was a braggart and a womanizer. Not a fun womanizer, but one of those jerks you want to keep away from your wife because you know he'll seduce her if she shows bad taste and lets him. During the party, Ed Parker had a few too many and became overly talkative. He and Hank Jones went out on the terrace to smoke. We don't smoke in the house. Diane can hardly tolerate smoking on our property. And Ed bragged to Hank about some hot girls in the neighborhood. Dave was in the bathroom, the window was open, and Dave heard Ed's words. It didn't go any further because Hank got tired of Ed's bragging, put out his cigarette, and went back into the house. The thing is, ever since Ed quit his job at the bank, he had been a house husband, and Sylvia brought home the paycheck. So if there was anyone who had the time, opportunity, and inclination to have fun with the neighbors' wives, it was Ed Parker. The next day, Dave came over and told me what he had overheard. I stood there in disbelief when Dave asked, "Al, do you think that condom belongs to Ed Parker?" "I can't imagine Diana with that scumbag. She knows I hate that jerk. She thinks he's a piece of shit. And besides, I don't believe Diana would ever cheat on me." "But the condom? How do you explain that?" "I don't know. I just don't believe it was Diana." "Well, if it was me, I'd want to know for sure. I couldn't live with a cheating, promiscuous wife." "Watch your language, Dave. You're talking about my wife." "Sorry, never mind." Dave didn't finish his sentence. He didn't want me to know what he was talking about. I thought about the used condom in the freezer. Could I get Diana and Ed's DNA to compare it to the DNA on the condom? It seemed unlikely. And would it be real evidence I could use in court if it came to that? I decided to take the path of least resistance. I was leaving town for 4 days the following week. If there was anything between them, they would take advantage of the situation. The salesman at the spy shop on Aurora was more than helpful, probably because I left the store with $1,100 worth of merchandise. I could install a small camera with a motion sensor in Casey's room. It wouldn't be noticeable among all the knickknacks on her shelf. It was a tough week, probably the longest of my life. I talked to Diane every night, and if anything happened, she was the best actress in the world. Nothing came out of her mouth except, "I love you, and I miss you." On Friday, she took the day off work and met me at the airport. We bought Thai food from our favorite restaurant and ate it in bed after having sex to celebrate my return. We spent the entire weekend catching up, but unfortunately, Diana had to fly to Phoenix on Tuesday to officially sign the purchase agreement. "I'm sorry we couldn't do it while you were out of town. The lawyers didn't finish the paperwork until Wednesday. Once the ink was dry, it took the board a few days to arrange the trip. I'm flying out Tuesday morning and will be back Wednesday evening." "That's too bad. I hope this is your last big project of the year. You've been working really hard. You're a star, my love." I loved this woman so much that I spent the entire weekend hoping and praying that all those recordings would lead to nothing. On Tuesday morning, Diana left at 6. I poured myself a cup of coffee and settled into my study to review the camera and voice recorder recordings. I started with the most likely room, Casey's room. The image appeared immediately. The date and time were Wednesday, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. 2 lovers entered the room and immediately began undressing each other. I watched in horror as at least 1, and possibly 2, marriages were destroyed. I had no idea how Sylvia would react to the copy of this video I planned to show her. I fast-forwarded through the scene, not wanting to see the details, but I needed to see how it ended, and at some points I was curious to hear what they were saying, dirty comments about their innocent spouses. So I fast-forwarded, paused, watched, and listened, then fast-forwarded again. Not that it's any of your business, but you're the third. I like men, and I love sex. I like how my husband takes care of me and the twins. We have a good life. but he only satisfies some of my needs. So we have to be careful. In October, he almost caught us. I like how my husband takes care of me and the twins. We have a good life. But he only satisfies some of my needs. So we have to be careful. He almost caught us in October. That was the last time we had sex at my house. And with your wife walking around all day, it's the safest option. The main thing is that my sister-in-law doesn't come home. That would be difficult to explain. I called Dave at work and asked him to come over after dinner. He came, and it didn't go very well. He cried for a long time, and we drank too much. I called Janet and told her that Dave was staying over. I didn't tell her why we were drinking, and she didn't ask. I won't go into details. On Wednesday, Dave and I took the day off. When he recovered from his hangover, we went to my lawyer and talked to a family counselor. Dave prepared the divorce papers. Some things worked in his favor. The twins were 14 and decided to live with their father. I was prepared for them to hear, but not see their mother confess to their father that she had been unfaithful. Fortunately, that wasn't necessary, as the boys decided to stay with their father. Since Dave got custody of the boys, the judge awarded him ownership of the house. He had to pay Janet alimony for 2 years, but it was only $1,200 a month for 2 years. Sylvia divorced Ed using the video I gave her. She stayed in the house and he moved out. Thank God, because Dave was looking for him. I heard that Janet tried to get Ed to move in with her, but he said he wanted nothing to do with a cheater. Diane and I did everything we could to help Dave get through the drama of that first year. Diane was especially helpful to her 2 godchildren. They both turned to her for advice. Even Casey helped her cousins after she graduated from high school in May. She spent the summer, her last with us before moving to Portland in September, offering advice from a girl's perspective. I'm getting a little ahead of myself. I should tell you what I found on the other videotape and on the voice recorder. Nothing. Well, nothing harmful, and in fact, the voice recorder in our bedroom recorded several of Diane's phone conversations, at least her half of the conversations, while I was away on business. Diane was talking to her mother, Casey, and her boss. I won't go into details. Suffice it to say that this woman loves me, and I have nothing to worry about. She seems to think I'm a pretty cool guy. I never told Diane about my suspicions. Some things are better left unsaid. Of course, she now knew about the camera in Casey's room. I got out of it by explaining that I suspected Janet was using our house key to meet Ed, and I just needed to prove it. Diane seemed to believe my explanation until... It had been almost a month since all that shit came out. Dinner was over. Diane and I had a glass of wine and were relaxing, reading in the living room. Suddenly, Diane looked up from her book. "You thought I was cheating on you?" Oh, shit. I sat there like a deer caught in headlights. Diane sat in her chair staring at me, waiting for my response. "Baby, come here. Sit down on the couch. I'll tell you everything." I explained everything to her. The filled condom, my conversation with Dave and the nosy waitress, the locked phone, the overtime and the trips, everything that had been weighing on me. Then I told her that all this time I hadn't believed she could cheat on me. Despite all these strange facts and circumstances, she wasn't that kind of woman. Diane looked at me. I could see she was trying hard to understand. That's the kind of woman she is. She hugged me around the neck and said the magic words. "Alec, honey, I could never do that to us. I love you." And that was the end of it. I don't know exactly when the problems in my relationship with my wife Liz began. At the time of writing this story, we had been married for 25 years. The first 10 years were probably good. I don't know when the sarcastic remarks and humiliation began, especially in front of her friends. Perhaps after 20 years, our sex life evaporated, but I didn't complain. Liz didn't look very good, and due to excessive drinking and smoking, she had gained a lot of weight. Watching her roll over in bed was quite unpleasant. How long it took her belly to reach her shoulders and how it bounced when I finally lay down on the bed. Perhaps it was because of her excess weight or excessive alcohol consumption that she developed an unpleasant snore. Every time I mentioned it, it was like lighting dynamite. After 20 years of marriage, I moved into the guest room. By nature, I tend to avoid conflict, which is strange because my job as a forensic accountant involves a lot of conflict. After a day of arguing at work, I didn't need it at home. To keep myself sane, I worked 60 hours a week plus time at home. If I wasn't working, I was coaching one of my two sons' soccer teams. If I wasn't on the soccer field, I was working out in the home gym I had spent over a decade building. I was mostly busy to avoid Liz's verbal abuse and try to maintain my self-respect. But life has a way of making adjustments. I was 10 years older than Liz and had always planned to retire at 62. All the men in my family died at 65 from heart disease, and I intended to enjoy at least part of my retirement. By the time I retired, my sons had outgrown football, and my days as a coach were over. Now I had more time to spend at home with Liz. I don't know if the insults became more frequent or if I had more distractions at work, but I started to fight back. That only made the cycles worse. Minor comments that I used to ignore turned into arguments. My sons were away at college, and we had no reason to hold back. To get away from Liz, I started going hiking. At first, it was day trips, then overnight trips, and then almost a whole week. I enjoyed being in the mountains, away from Liz. The time apart didn't bring us closer together. It seemed like Liz was inventing new insults for me while I was gone. The second year of my retirement was even worse. During my second year of retirement, when I needed to escape the winter, I bought an apartment in Florida. Or rather, we bought an apartment in Florida. Liz helped me choose it and then enjoyed furnishing and decorating it. I think we even got along well during that period. We planned to spend our vacations there and eventually retire to a warmer place than our current home in the Northeast. All the good feelings about buying the apartment disappeared a few months after the purchase when a fall hurricane hit that area of Florida. Before Halloween, I decided to go there and assess the damage. My neighbor reported that the screens had been torn off my porch. Fortunately, our small neighborhood escaped most of the damage reported in the news. Liz was upset that I left. I tried to explain to her that I really needed to assess the damage inside the apartment. It took 2 weeks to repair the windows. Fortunately, that was the only damage to my apartment. The rest of the neighborhood looked like a war zone. I got home just in time to prepare for Thanksgiving. We always hosted both of our families. Depending on which nieces and nephews were coming, we could have up to 30 people in our house. We always prayed for good weather. When I got back, Liz was even more unpleasant. We couldn't agree on anything. We had been hosting Thanksgiving for 12 years. Arguing didn't help, so I said, "What the heck?" and agreed to everything she wanted. That seemed to make her even angrier. That Thanksgiving was a disaster. There were 28 people in the house, and it was cold outside. To make matters worse, Liz's nephew, a drug addict, brought his dog, a big dog that thought he was a person. It annoyed me that she didn't ask me about it beforehand because she knew I hated dogs. The only thing Liz and I were good at was cooking Thanksgiving dinner. I cooked the turkey and potatoes, and Liz did everything else. We had a well-oiled system, well-oiled until a 220-pound woolly dog burst into the house. By the time dinner was on the table, I was a nervous wreck. The second part of our well-oiled system was washing the dishes and making dessert after dinner. I would rinse the dishes and load them into the dishwasher, and Liz and I would set the table for dessert. The damn dog kept getting in the way, licking the dishes in the dishwasher and jumping on the table, trying to eat the dessert we were preparing. I started yelling at the dog, and Liz started yelling at me for yelling at the dog. She talked to me like I was a 2-year-old, and I was embarrassed by how she treated me in front of my brother. I left without saying goodbye to my brother, my wife, my children, or anyone else in the house. I went for a walk and ended up at a bar a few blocks from home. In the 20 years I had lived there, I had been to that bar 3 or 4 times, and this was the first time without Liz. Getting drunk was not an option. After a couple of whiskey shots, I spent several hours drinking beer. When I returned, everyone was gone, and my sons were very worried about me, but I assured them that I was fine. I went to the guest room and packed my things. The sun was just rising when I drove back to Florida. I figured Liz was probably tracking my cell phone. Or maybe she just didn't care. My sons could have been tracking my phone too, although they texted me frequently to ask if I was okay. After a couple of weeks in the Florida sun, I felt much calmer and wanted to go home for Christmas. I texted Liz that I would be home on the 23rd. She replied, "No." "That's silly, it's our home," I said. It escalated into an argument. She sent me long messages detailing all the terrible things I had done and how I had embarrassed her on Thanksgiving. We exchanged numerous messages arguing about who had embarrassed whom. Then she said, "You left, and you can't just come and go as you please." "Fine," I said. "If I can't stay there, I want a divorce, and we can sell the damn house." "Fine," she said, "and you can sell your damn apartment." The divorce was painful for me. She's a damn bitch and got half my retirement fund. It's just not fair. But by the following summer, we were officially divorced. Liz had to sell the family home by July 31st of the following year, and I had no deadline to sell my apartment. 7 months later, Liz shocked me by asking to spend a couple of days in the apartment to talk to me. I agreed. Since half the house belonged to her, I had to emphasize that. She flew in and refused my offer to pick her up at the airport. After she arrived, we sat across from each other at the kitchen table with glasses of wine in our hands. "What do you want, Liz?" "I need more time to sell the house. My car broke down, and I had to buy a new one. I need a 3-bedroom apartment, and decent ones cost at least $3,000 a month." "I agree. Until our youngest finishes school, and then we can revisit the issue. The house is paid for. But after July 31st, you'll be responsible for all expenses, including taxes and insurance." "Thanks. It'll still be cheaper than renting an apartment." She sat there twirling her wine glass, and I could see her eyes filling with tears. "Liz, you didn't fly all this way to ask me that simple question." "I flew here to apologize for how I treated you." I handed her a box of tissues. It was the first time she had ever apologized to me for anything. "Do you really think an apology will change anything?" "Number. When you weren't here for Christmas, my sister tore me to pieces. Almost every woman in our circle dreams of a husband like yours, and you drove him away. And for what? You put my son and his dog above your husband. You're a damn fool." She insisted I see a psychologist. I followed her advice. The psychologist analyzed my relationship with you. I answered all her questions positively. You are an ideal father who always took care of our boys, trained them, and was a positive role model, even though you had a very stressful job. When we had an event, you were always there, cooking and washing the dishes. We weren't rich, but we always had enough money for everything we needed. And you took us on great vacations every year. I don't think you gained a single pound in the 20-plus years we were together. But I knew all that before the counseling session because my friends always reminded me of it. I was often accused of seducing a younger man, even though you were 10 years older than me. Comments about how fit you were during our summer barbecues by the pool. All my friends dreamed of a husband like you when we had parties. You did a great job landscaping the backyard. The list goes on and on. Instead of gratitude, I felt jealousy, which is the word my therapist used. Before you retired, my friends always teased me that you would cheat on me because even at 50 you were still handsome. I told them that was impossible because I always know where you are. And when you retired, my friends who idolized you a month ago turned against you. You were supposed to become a house husband, clean the house, do the laundry, and cook dinner every night. And when you started going on week-long hiking trips, they were sure you were cheating on me. Who goes to the mountains alone for a whole week? They asked. I let them turn me against you. On top of that, there were the usual things every woman goes through. Menopause. My breasts sagged. Wrinkles appeared. I gained weight. Men stopped paying attention to me. I became invisible. They looked past me, trying to find some beauty. According to the psychologist, to cope with my low self-esteem, I had to humiliate you. The psychologist listed everything I had done to you. I was horrified listening to myself describe my actions, and you still bought me roses. Why are we doing this, Liz? It can't be fixed. Wait, it gets worse. In my sophomore year, when you started going away for the weekends, I would go to a bar at the end of the block. I would put on makeup, wear a nice dress, and start drinking. I was turned on by the attention from men. Eventually, I went home with a guy and let him sleep with me and do other things. I was disgusting to myself. The sex was disgusting, but I was thrilled that someone found me desirable. That summer, I did it 2 more times. I hated myself, and I hated you even more because if it weren't for you, I would never have done anything. God, how I hated you. I know I made your life hell. The last straw was how I humiliated you on Thanksgiving. Liz emptied her glass and I refilled it. I didn't know what to think. Liz's infidelity didn't bother me as much as I thought it did. And what good would this anger do? I was enjoying the good life in Florida, even though the women who flirted with me every day didn't interest me. Liz, is this supposed to make me feel better? Not really. According to my therapist, the confession is supposed to help me feel better. I guess it's just another dose of verbal abuse. You don't look as angry as I thought you would be. What's the point? I'm not happy about it. But considering how you've treated me for the last 12 years, your infidelity doesn't even make the top 10 list of worst things you've done. I deserve this, she said. Anything else, Liz? Because after that bombshell, I want to go to bed. And the sight of you is making me nauseous. She really started crying hard and whispered, One more thing, please, before you go to bed. We sat there staring at our wine glasses, and finally she looked up and said, I have breast cancer, stage 3. I'm going to lose my left breast and probably my right. Then she started sobbing uncontrollably. I rushed over to her, hugged her, and she buried her head in my shoulder and continued to sob. 2 minutes ago, I hated her with every fiber of my being, and now I was holding her in my arms. I need you. You've always been my rock, even when I hated you. I don't know if I can get through this without you. Please, let's go home. We sat down on the couch after standing in the kitchen for what seemed like minutes or hours. I don't know. After sitting on the couch for a few minutes, Liz laid her head on my lap and fell asleep within seconds. I sat there, staring at my reflection on the TV and wondering what the hell I was going to do. When I had to make important decisions in my life, I always tried to choose the right option, not the one I wanted. Liz knew that. Part of me wanted to throw Liz out on the street. I think that's why she told me about her affairs, so that I wouldn't know anything when I had to make a decision. Of course, I only had one option. Finally, I was able to slip out from under Liz and put a pillow under her head. I took the blanket and covered her before going to bed. It's funny how I tossed and turned before finally deciding whether to go home with her or not. When I got up, Liz was no longer on the couch. I thought she had left, but then I found her asleep in the guest room. I made coffee, prepared the ingredients for an omelet, and then gently woke her up and told her breakfast would be ready soon. When she sat down at the table, I said, I'm not going with you, Liz. I'm very sorry you have cancer, but you've been cancer to my self-esteem, my happiness, my sense of well-being. It took me months of therapy to understand why I had suicidal thoughts so often. I know you'll promise never to do this to me again, but it's in your nature. It comes so easily to you. Eventually, you'll go back to your old ways, and that will cause my cancer to consume me. I can't risk my mental health. She looked me in the eyes, and I swear I saw the old Liz, the sharp Liz, ready to fire off some barbed remark. Then her shoulders slumped as she realized that my prediction had come true, except that this time she was able to keep her mouth shut. When did I become such a mean woman? Death is knocking at my door, and I'm a fucking bitch. I was a fucking bitch. And I knew I was a fucking bitch, but everyone else had to put up with it. You're kidding yourself. No one had to put up with it because I was pretty much the only target of your anger. I had to put up with it. As for your original question, I think your bitchiness started after our 10th anniversary. So you put up with me, you bitch, for more than half of our marriage? I had my own entertainment, my career, the boys, their teams. I moved into the guest room, and as soon as the boys left for school, I started spending more time here or away from you. That Thanksgiving was the last straw. You could have found someone else in the last 10 years. Liz, do you hear what you're saying? You're a bitch even at your best. Imagine if I had left you for another woman, but more importantly, you already destroyed everything I was. All my priorities were focused on the boys, their well-being, and raising them to be good people. Imagine if one or both of them became your new center of attention. I couldn't take that risk. Do you really think I'm that evil? We sat staring at each other across the cold remains of our breakfast until Liz looked out the window. I cleared the table and went for a walk. When I came back, she was gone. Liz died 6 months later. I flew in to support my boys, who were having a very hard time coping with her death. After the funeral, Liz's sister approached me. Liz told me she was flying to Florida in the hope that you would come back with her. I told her I was praying you wouldn't come back. After she returned, she hardly spoke to me or our brother and never told us about her condition. It was your sons who told us that she was in hospice care and had returned to your home. I visited her at your house, and she told me that she had refused all cancer treatment, surgery, chemotherapy, everything. All she would allow was painkillers. I don't know what they talked about when she was in Florida, she didn't tell me, but maybe she finally realized how badly she treated you. In her last days, she gave me this letter for you. I never read that letter, didn't see the point. It's in a pile of stuff from my old house, along with all the love letters she wrote me in the early years of our relationship. Cold and scared, ghosts of everything we were.